I'm Jennifer Marie Keller. Welcome to my Diary of a Painter. So this view is the other side of my studio. It's pretty bare right now. I've got my big master copy. That's a work in progress. And then, so I am going to be now working on a still life. And I've chosen this spot here where I can get backlit light from this window. So I'm using this bar as the table for my still life, and I've got some objects on it. The still life is going to be these 3 objects probably. So I've got a martini glass filled with a tiny bit of water, glasses, and then a candle that I'm going to light. And then I also have this really nice linen as well that I like. That this is the most important part of the still life, so that kind of highlights it, having it on that little cocktail napkin. And I'm going to try and set this up so that bush in the window with the flowers will be in the background. So the idea for this still life is the fountain of youth. So a glass of water from the fountain of youth. And so I've kind of got where at least I want it to be positioned. One thing's backlit from that window. So now I'm going to mess around with the placement of everything, and also so my easel, hard to do this backwards. Whoa, okay, so my easel right here is going to have a panel on it, and then I'm going to do a smaller painting, so 11 by 14. So as I'm moving the objects around for the setup, I'm going to make sure that my easel with the panel on it can be set up with it too, so it's easy access for painting. So every time I set something up for a still life, I'm always moving the easel around with the setup, so I know that there's not going to be anything awkward that happens where the setup looks really great, but then I have to paint like really far away, or I can't get my easel close enough to paint from it. So that's always, I find that important for myself, moving the easel around with the setup. I think I'm pretty happy now with this setup for this still life. So here is the view from my rolly chair. So I like this lower angle, so that's why I'm sitting. I usually prefer to stand, but I'm liking this setup in the chair right now. So it's hard to get, I mean, the camera definitely does not work like the human eye, so I can't really show on the video what it's gonna exactly look like. But before I was doing like a landscape type of thing, but switched it to, whoops, now my easel's super tilted, a more profile. So, and I also had a candle in a glass, because if I was gonna be doing the more landscape side to make it longer, but I couldn't get these 3 elements to work well together to connect, so I removed it. I feel like that happens a lot with still life, is I have an idea, like a concept, like a story that I want to tell, and so I get a lot of objects that will look good with that, and then I end up like removing objects to try and get it to be like tell the story as simply as possible, because I'm not a huge fan all the time of like the more cluttered still lifes. I like the more simple ones. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of live with this setup for a bit. I have about 2 more hours of good daylight that's going to give me good light from this window. And this window is also not true north. I think it's more northeast, but it's close enough that the shadows stay pretty consistent. So that's what I'm working with. So I'm just gonna kind of like keep looking at this and make sure that this is exactly what I want. And I also, if you can see my panel where I'm going to be painted, there's no light on it. Whoa. There's no light on it. So I have bought a clamp light from Amazon, which should come tomorrow. So my plan is to clip it on my easel, and I'm sure some light will filter onto this. So before I start working on it, I want to make sure that I won't have to be making huge adjustments. So I can make sure that I have light on my canvas and it's not disrupting too much what I'm seeing right here. And I also definitely wanted to use natural light. That was besides the concept of a glass of water from the Fountain of Youth, I wanted to be using natural light for this. My big painting that I'm working on, the Icarus painting, is with artificial light. And so I have all of the windows in my studio closed with all the drapes drawn, and then on some parts were more like especially for this one, I have this cloth that's right here that I pull over that window, so it's like a double blackout. So the studio is really dark, and I wanted to work on another painting where I have the windows open, so it's a little bit more like of a happy, bright studio. So yeah, working around that, I'm going to get used to, I think this is the first painting where in this new studio that I'm going to be using natural light. So that'll be fun. I really like using natural light as the light changes throughout the day, and also will change with cloudy days to sunny days, but I'm in California and we're getting out of the rainy season now, so it should pretty much be sunny days, so that should be fairly consistent for natural light. Also, so I had this frame for 11 by 14 that I had bought for another painting that it ended up not working well for. So I had this, which is it's a silver frame, but it's kind of more like a silver gold, more on the silver side of silver gold. And I wanted to do a painting that would fit in this, that would be lighter colors, something with glass. So that would look really nice with those like reflections in the glass, and softer colors that I thought would look really beautiful in this. And so when I had the concept for this image, I was thinking aesthetically how I would set it up where it would look really nice in this frame. So one thing that I did was I put the panel in the frame. This is when I finished my setting it up and like moving things around a bunch. I then set it up here, which I'm going to hold it because I'm afraid it might fall off because my easel needs to be adjusted slightly. But so I was using my mirror and also my draw scope that I could pull the image of the still life onto the panel. And I've never done this before with a blank panel in a frame, and so it was really easy then to see how it would look as a finished painting with the frame all around it. And I have some ideas too with the composition, how I'm going to start the painting in the frame like this, and then I can be marking so I know that like the start of the glass and the end of the glasses will be exactly where I want it, matching up with the edges of the frame. And so if I can't do this for my bigger paintings, but for my smaller still lifes, I really like that idea of doing it in a frame. So I think I might, as long as I have a frame that fits the size of panel or canvas that I'm working on, I might do this in the future. I think it's really, really helpful to see what the painting's going to look like finished. Another thing that you might have seen me doing while setting this up was using a mirror to pull the image onto the panel. And I can't show you exactly with the camera because the camera lens is only one lens and you need two eyes to do this. So what you do is you have both eyes open and you hold the mirror up in between your eyes. And so I'd be facing this way. And so I'd be facing towards my setup and the canvas. And it takes a little bit getting used to, but you can pull, looking with both eyes open, if you look in the mirror and then at your canvas at the same time, you can pull the image over from the actual setup onto your canvas. It's hard to explain, but it's pretty easy to do, and once you get the hang of it, it's really cool. Now the thing is, by doing this, since you're using one mirror, so when you pull the image onto the canvas, it's going to be the reverse of that. And so the draw scope that I have is the same thing, except for there's two mirrors in here, and you do the same exact thing where you're holding it up with one eye, but both eyes are open. So one eye is looking at the setup and the other eye is looking at the canvas. And so you can pull the image over. And since it has two mirrors, when you pull the actual setup onto the canvas, it will not flip the image. It'll look like this, just pulled over there. This is trickier to use and messes more with my brain, I feel like, so it takes a bit getting used to. So while this is cool to see actually what your painting's going to look like on your canvas, and by the way, this is just working side size, not if you're doing comparative measuring. So it's like the exact same size, the setup is going to be the exact same size from the setup onto the canvas. But if you don't have the draw scope, and I think it's $60 or $80, which is a bit expensive, a plain old mirror works. So, and I like to actually use both of them because this does trip my brain up a little bit, so this is a little bit faster for me, but I still like to use both. And then the other tool that I was using is this Tiffin lens, where if I look through it, it makes everything go sepia, so you can see it more. It's not really black and white, but it's more black and white than what you're seeing right now of this setup. So it helps you see values better and making sure that so then you can be looking at the value structure of your composition. So I'm really excited to start this. I think with the colors in it are more whites and off-whites, and then I have this dusty rose colored napkin, the flowers in the background, which are whites, yellows, and pinks. I think this image is really a pretty image, like a really pretty image. And so my goal with it is to take it from pretty and to make it into something really beautiful. And I'm also going to try and paint this as quickly as I can. So I have a goal for how long that I want to take painting this, because the flowers, the roses on this bush right here in our yard, is the roses die really fast on it. So that's why I want to paint it really fast. And I'm probably not going to be putting the roses exactly where they show up in life on the bush, but rather use it more as a compositional elements to get movement in the background that supports the foreground, like the main subject. So when I had this idea originally, I had these, these are my glasses, and I've had this martini glass, and I was messing around with, and I had this, it's a bed sheet, it's not really a tablecloth, but it's going to be a tablecloth for this painting. And I was messing around with the objects, and it was looking too sparse, and it was hard to connect the objects, which I feel like in still life, I don't like things to look too disjointed, and I like things to look connected. So if you could especially connect things with a shadow shape, so the shadow shape of the napkin going into, there's not really strong shadows in the glass. It's all pretty much glowing since it's backlit. So that's okay. So having like the shadow shape connected with the napkin, going down to the shadow of the sheet, and then I have the napkin corner kind of peeled up right here that makes a shadow, which connects to the dark shadow part of the glasses. So getting everything to connect that way, I think, is really good. And so before I had this napkin, things were looking too sparse, so I thought having a cocktail napkin would look really good to connect the objects and also kind of frame the bottom of the glass, because this glass is the most important. It's the subject of the painting. So I was trying to find cocktail napkins, cloth ones, and I was I couldn't find anyone that had cocktail napkins, so I went to Crate and Barrel, and I love the linen napkins that they have, and I really like painting linen. I like how it just moves really nice and it holds wrinkles nicely, and I love linen, and Crate and Barrel has a nice selection of napkins. In this other painting of this still life, the bread and butter painting, I had so much fun painting that napkin with the stripes on it, where some brushstrokes were nice and short, but then since it had the stripes, I could do those really long, skinny brushstrokes down the napkin, which was so fun. I saw it in Crate and Barrel when I was coming up for the composition of the piece, and I saw that the napkin in Crate and Barrel, and I was like, yes, I have to, like, I want to paint that so bad. So the same thing, which I didn't really have color so much picked out for. I knew that if I was going to have color in this painting, I wanted it to be softer. So this pink I think is really pretty, and I'm really, really excited to paint it. Oh, and then also, so this napkin from Crate and Barrel is a normal dinner size napkin. So what I ended up doing is just cutting it into a cocktail napkin, and I don't have a sewing machine, and I could sew it, but it would take a long time, and I'm not that great at sewing. I don't have that much practice with it. So if you want to do something similar, what I ended up doing is I cut it into a 10 by 10 inches. So when you can fold it into a cocktail napkin, which is about 5 by 5 inches. And to create this hem, what I ended up doing is just, after cutting the shape I wanted, I folded the hem and ironed it so it made a crease, and that was like my faux way of making it look like I had sewn a hem onto it, even though I did not. That is it with the still life right now. I'll make an update when I get the clamp light, everything officially set up, and then yeah, keep updating as I'm painting it. So it'll be fun to see the painting develop. I'm Jennifer Marie Keller. If you want to see more of my painting and art videos, subscribe to this YouTube channel.